Welcome everybody to the North Carolinian Stream. I'm your host NC, where we have arrived at the last bit or last piece of the armor that we will be discussing. This is a mysterious part that I will be talking about. It's not actually named in the scripture, but it is alluded to according to the book that I have been basing the series on, Dressed to Kill, by Mr. Rick Renner. So if you're interested in all this mystery, then stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody, to the North Carolinian Stream. Glad to have you for this special mysterious weapon that we will be studying today. Well, I want to give you a heads up on this particular installment. I have been basically studying and researching these pieces of God's armor, not ours, writing the blog that I wish to present to you, and then presenting it in the best way I know how, and that's reading what I wrote to you and trying to do it in a way that's interesting. But today I just want to do a more informal presentation to you. That's just to sit back, and I have notes in my lap here, and I want to basically tell you about my research, tell you my research in a kind of informal note way that I've done. So it'll be much like the other presentations, just I'll be looking down at my notes every now and then. So if you can forgive that, we'll proceed. The piece of armor that is mentioned here that's so mysterious is not actually named, but it's a piece of armor that the Christian needs in his arsenal every day, every moment. And Paul uses the word always, and we'll get to that here in just a second. The scholars, including many scholars, including Rick Renner, the one that I've based the whole series on, cannot see the armor or gear complete without including the spear. And he says the spear of prayer and supplication is what he's calling this. The only thing that's lacking in the garb, the gear, and the weapon account of the Roman soldier is the spear. Let's recount. We have the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the belt of truth, the shoes of peace, the shield of faith, the sword of the Spirit, and now the spear of prayer and supplication. Now, in order to understand a little bit better the application of the spear in Christian terms, let's look at what it meant for the Roman soldier. There were all kinds of spears for the Roman soldier. The construction differed as time approached. The Roman domination of that era, so many numerous types of Roman spears, I couldn't begin to tell you about each and every one of them and the construction thereof. But mainly two come to the forefront. The first one was a pilum, Pilum. It was a 6-foot long iron shaft and iron tip of death. It was used for long distance. So you know that the guys that threw this had to be one strong individual. The second type of spear that was used in the arsenal of the Roman soldier mainly was the vegetius, Vegetius. It was anywhere from 3.5 to 5.5 feet long. It started off at 5.5, then they moved it back to 3.5 later on in its history. and it was for close quarters combat. Now, the average soldier back then in the infantry carried 5 short lances and 1 long lance or spear. But these were the two mainly ones that were used back then. Now, the connection between that Roman spear and the Christian and the spear of prayer and supplication is that is a big part of how we do warfare in the Christian life. And we'll get to that in just a second. But the first big connection that I want you to see is that the last call to action is pray in that verse. And it's filled nicely with the last remaining armor piece of the Roman soldier, the spear. You're throwing the spear in hopes to first strike your enemy at a distance. Then you're using your spear for close quarters combat. Then after that's done, you draw your sword and start hacking and stabbing away. The second connection the spear is with the Christian is that Paul says praying always with all prayer alludes to the different types of prayer at the believer's disposal. Likewise, the variety of spears at the soldier's disposal. Like I said, they had a lot of spears at their disposal. Well, the Christian has a lot of prayers at his and her disposal. What do I mean by that? Well, take, for instance, a close quarters combat prayer. That would be when a Christian prays in the presence of the person in need, or as soon as the Christian hears of the need for prayer. Close quarters combat prayer. What about a long distance prayer or spear? That would translate to one of intercession or standing in the gap for someone. Of course, that would also apply to someone that is on the other side of the world or other side of the nation or state and is separated by a great void or distance, and they give you a call and need your prayer, and you pray for them while you're separated by that great distance. We should always strive to be in constant communication with the Lord. And that is something that Paul stresses in this passage, in this verse. He says, praying always. And always, there's no doubt what always means. It's not sometimes, it's not when you feel like it. Always means always. So Renner mentions that there are six types of prayer that are found in the New Testament. I'm not going to elaborate on all these. I'm just going to mention them to you. You can do your own research on these. But the 6 that Mr. Renner mentions are prayer of consecration. Number 2, prayer of petition. Number 3, prayer of authority. Number 4, prayer of thanksgiving. Number 5, prayer of supplication. And number 6, prayer of intercession that we've already covered. Now, no one of these prayers is superior to the other. They are all situational. So whatever the need is, that prayer is what God is listening out for. Now, the results of these prayers are God answers directly and instantly. We see that exemplified in countless passages in Scripture. God sends angels to answer. We've seen that in Scripture. God sends people to answer. We can see that in Scripture. God changes you using some developmental method. We've seen that. And Joseph is an example of that. God changes other people being prayed for. And the final one is God changes both you and the other person being prayed for. So there's a variety of different results, different methods and results that God can use to get the answer done. And of course, his timing is perfect. And we might not like the timing, but his timing is perfect, and we've got to trust in that. Mr. Rick Renner, once again, does an excellent job in summing up the spear of prayer and supplication and its role in the Christian's life. He says on page 436 of his book, when you wield the lance of prayer and supplication, this powerful prayer tool is thrust forward into the spirit realm against the malevolent works of the adversary. By forcibly hurling this divine instrument into the face of the enemy, you exercise the power God has given you to stop major obstacles from developing in your personal life. If you don't already have prayer as a regular thing that you do in your life, and not only thing, but practice in your life, I encourage you to do it. And not only as a thing, but and not only as a practice, but as a communication with the Lord. He wants and desires to be in constant communication with us, whether it's just in our thought life, whether it's in that personal time that we square away each and every day, whenever it is, whether and wherever it is, whether it's in the car, the shower, wherever it is, and whenever it is, pray always and seek his face. And whether it's seeking his hand or whether it's just seeking his face, pray always. That is what the spear of prayer and supplication is all about, especially if it does damage to the kingdom of darkness. Pray always. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this last segment of the mysterious weapon that we found out is the spear of prayer and supplication. And I hope you understood and liked the relaxing, laid-back format that I did for you guys and just speaking to you and talking to you with my notes. If you did like it, please hit a subscribe and a like. And please, in the comment section, let me know how it blessed you. Until our next time, the next time that I speak to you, it'll be the last installment of the series. I'm going to hit you with a conclusion to this whole series of God's Armor, Not Ours. Yes, we've got all the parts now. And so how do we really make any sense of all these parts, both offensive and defensive? So one last installment to the series, and I hope you guys have been blessed, and we'll see you next time. God bless.